a Major League Baseball insider for USA Today, Bob Nightengale. Bob, thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks, Ben.
Of course. So, hey, I wanted to ask you, I know, one, this is a big day in baseball. We're talking now on Tuesday, and this is a big day for baseball. I know talks are ongoing, and you're actually at the players' camp down in Arizona. So I wanted to ask about that. How is it down there? How's the vibe going on this big day of talks amongst the players?
Yeah, they had about 55 players there, Ben, and
Wow.
from about 10 or 12 different teams. Great complex, about $300 million complex. And the union will, use it as long as they have to. I'm not sure if they'll still keep using it once the lockout ends and maybe have the free agent players. But yeah, they love the place and a lot of camaraderie. It's way on the other side of town. It takes forever to get there. But yeah, it's a good spot.
Whose stadium is it? Is it one of the spring training stadiums?
No, brand new. It's more like a youth complex. It just got built in February.
Oh, wow.
So just a lot of youth fields and like 300, 350 acres, massive place. And even the players are joking, man, I wish we could use this for our own spring training site rather than the major league spots. But yeah, nice facility.
That's so cool. Who are some of the big names down there right now?
Well, the biggest showed up toward the end was Trevor Bauer showed up. Pretty much the first time, people had really seen him, for probably since last July. Liam Hendrickson was there, from the White Sox, Austin Slater. Those are the biggest names that, jump out. Mitch Haniger from Seattle.
Oh, wow.
And Kyle Hendricks, too, also from the Cubs.
Cool. So, hey, let's talk about the lockout for a minute. And like I said, today's a big day. There's another deadline set for today, but I use the term deadline softly. We saw it once get changed, so who knows about that? But no matter how you shake it up, today is a big day. And Bob, what I want to ask you is, and best explain it to the people listening, what are the biggest issues? Like, what is the biggest issue happening in that negotiation room right now?
I think the biggest by far is just the luxury tax thresholds. They're so close in everything else. I mean, they've agreed on a 12-team postseason, DH, minimum salary is only $25,000, so they can split the difference there. There is a $50 million difference on the new pre-arbitration pool that never existed before. But from my understanding, things are moving along well. And I don't believe that Tuesday night is the Monday night's the deadline. I think the real deadline is going to be in the afternoon tomorrow.
Okay. So can you explain what is the CBT? You say the luxury tax, but to people that hear that and all they've seen is CBT, that's the big issue. What is it? What is the CBT?
It was really designed, back in 2003 to curb the Yankees' runaway spending. Teams got tired of the Yankees spending more than everybody else. So it's like, okay, let's punish the Yankees. They have to go a luxury tax and give it to small market teams if they spend too much. And then the Dodgers joined in. Boston was over for a lot of years. It was just Yankees and Boston for a long time. And I think the problem now was the Dodgers. The Dodgers spent, $25 million luxury tax, which was the next highest with the Padres at $215. And I think everybody in the National League West said, hold on here. Let's bring these guys back and punish them. They did spend $35 million in luxury tax penalty. But I think teams, too, want to see them forfeit draft picks. And so, Steve Cohen of the Mets now is talking about maybe a $300 million payroll. So it's pretty much just to stop the runaway spenders. And obviously, there's a lot of teams, 4 teams last year that came within $5 million of luxury tax. So it's almost a de facto salary cap.
Yeah.
And that's what the union argues, like guys or teams are only going to spend up to that luxury tax limit because they're treating it like a salary cap.
Yeah. Another big talking point has been rule changes. And I know you were just down there, or you are down there talking to players. Have you had a chance to talk to them about some of the rule changes, the shift, the pitch clock? And if so, what's the consensus? How do they feel about those?
Well, Blake Treinen of the Dodgers was really against the pitch clock, saying, what are we doing here? Why are we trying to change the game? And, hey, in minor leagues last year, the time of game was down 20 minutes. But the big thing was I think the batting average is about up about 30 points in almost we saw a run a game more
Wow.
home runs, fewer strikeouts, even fewer walks. So that's the big thing. The shift, it's not really banning the shift, but restricting it to make sure all four infielders stay in the infield dirt. And as soon as that pitcher releases the ball, then you can run around like madman, do whatever you want. And then they want to enlarge the bases by 3 inches. In the minor leagues, it only added up to one extra stolen base game, but it was like a 76% stolen base success rate. So maybe we'll see, people, start running more like it used to be.
Would you agree with me here? And I've said that I actually talked to my brother about this yesterday about the pitch clock, and I've decided I want to call it a play clock because the batters are no saints themselves, Bob. They'll stand out of the box for 30 seconds sometimes. So yes, it is being called a pitch clock, but basically it's going to make action happen faster. Batters back in the box, pitchers on the rubber. Let's go to it.
Oh, you're absolutely right. I mean, batters are to blame as much as anything, taking the Velcro off, standing there and still stepping out. But yeah, it should speed up the game. Scouts, executives that go down the minor leagues love the rule. They say it just picks up the pace. Hey, if there's a great 4.5 hour game, nobody cares, but you have to have action. And we've seen too much time, no action at all. It's like, in football, it would be like, Tom Brady sitting back and throwing a bomb every play. Pretty cool when he hits a guy, his receiver, but when he doesn't, it might take 2.5 quarters before he does. So I think that's what's happened in baseball.
That's a good point. Hey, can you explain to me, there's been a lot of talk of a ghost win, and I know that's kind of contingent, and you just said it's looking like they're moving forward now as if it'd be 12 teams in the postseason, so this wouldn't matter. But let's say 14 teams are involved in the end, and then comes in a ghost win. What was all that talk about, and what is a ghost win?
So in the first round of best of 5, whoever has the best record would start the series up 1-0. And so they only have to win 2 games, where their team has to win 3. And they do it in Correa. But I think the team that always had the ghost win always won the series anyway. So Major League Baseball said, we want no part of that. We get killed enough having a ghost runner in the 10th inning, let alone a ghost win. So they said, no, we're not doing it.
It's funny. Not too long ago, I had Adam Jones on the podcast, who has been playing over in Japan for the last couple of years. And he actually talked about that and potentially doing it over here before it was ever even a thing. So he actually was a fan of it, but I definitely get both sides of it. Another one I wanted to ask about is robot umpires. I don't know how much of that is being talked in this agreement right now, but over the last couple of years, it's been more and more and more of a talking point. Is that coming anytime soon, do you think?
Well, the union stopped that one. They say, hey, we'll give you 45 days to implement one of those 3 rules, but not robo umps. I don't think they have the technology down. I mean, it's almost like even you're watching baseball games, even when you watch the replay 10 times, you don't know whether the guy was safe or out.
Yeah.
It's just it's when the camera angles aren't right. So let alone a strike zone. But you talk to some umpires, they say, you know what, we wouldn't mind it. If baseball is going to start embracing gambling and, a lot more people gambling in stadiums, they don't want to be crushed if they miss a call or two on a strike zone, late in the game.
Yeah.
Because of that, let's take it out of their hands.
I'm with you. I don't think the technology is there yet. I've seen it in action in the Arizona Fall League some. And I think it's got to be a little better. I don't know how you do it, but I've seen curveballs bounce in the dirt. They clip the strike zone and everybody's like, what are you talking about? So I do think baseball is heading there. I just don't know if it's in the next year or two, because I do think there's work that needs to be done. So what I wanted to ask you here is there's been a lot of negativity in the world, in baseball world, about this lockout. Obviously, people are frustrated. I've been trying to stay as positive as I possibly can be throughout it all. So what I want to ask you is, give the people listening a reason to be optimistic. Like, why should everyone listening feel a little optimistic about where we are right now?
I think both sides realize there's so much to lose. They are making progress. I think we'll have a deal done by tomorrow. I do. If a deal is not done, and then all of a sudden you have a problem, it's like, okay, how about the games missed, back pay, service time. It just complicates so many issues. The fans are, going nuts here. And I think, hey, if you miss a couple of weeks of the season, it's going to scar the game forever. And some of these fans are not going to come back. Even back in 94, 95, it took a dozen years for the attendance to finally reach the level of 94. That's even with the, Cal Ripken breaking Lou Gehrig's mark. And, of course, the great home run race with Sosa and McGuire. So I think this would be devastating to the sport. That's why I think they know that, hey, they get a deal done by tomorrow, they can still have a 162-game season, full pay, and maybe all is forgiven.
So I know it's an opinion, and I know you're hopeful. What gives you that optimism? Because in the public eye, they haven't really budged on CBT. Finally, we saw a little bit of movement. What gives you the optimism to say, I think, and I'm hopeful that they could get something done tomorrow?
Well, I think there's been enough movement today on both sides, compromising. I think MLB is pushing the numbers even more. Like, I think they realize, hey, we got to get something done. So hopefully by, in the afternoon. I don't think anybody believes there's really a deadline tonight, just like in Florida.
Yeah.
It was at night, but it was supposed to be the next day. Same thing now, but they have to get a deal done by, say, 5 o'clock Eastern time tomorrow, to make this thing work.
So speaking of Florida, like you just brought up, I wanted to talk to you about Florida. And what were Florida was crazy, by the way. It would just seem like a massive roller coaster for everybody involved. And you were right there in the thick of it every single day. What were those days and nights like for you guys on the media side of things, just hanging out there, relaying news to people? Because it's crazy on our end. How was Florida from your perspective in those long days and nights?
Well, at least it was good weather, Ben. Even at night, at 2:30 in the morning, it was warm, where it gets, cold in California, cold in Arizona at night. Just kind of watching guys go back and forth. Okay, was that the 8th meeting, the 9th meeting, the 10th meeting? What time is it? 16 and a half hours. There was a reporter from the Associated Press, Ron Blum, who's covered a number of these. He was predicting we're going to go till 11 in the morning or 2 in the afternoon, because I remembered a 2002 negotiation that lasted 23 hours. So, yeah, it ended at 2:30 in the morning, and then lost all momentum. It was never the same the next day. But that day was a mad rush. Even, Rod Manfred stopped by the group of reporters, said, we're working at it. People giving thumbs up. So, got relatively close, but, not close enough. So I think the same thing is going on here 1 week later.
Well, maybe the meeting should have gone until like 11 a.m. because they were getting close and then they lost all the momentum. But are you aware, Bob, that night you became a social media star? I mean, you took the world by storm. You became the white knight of baseball Twitter. Were you aware of it in that moment when it was happening?
And, I got a couple of texts, but I didn't quite understand it because you're, right there in the moment. It wasn't like I was part of the negotiating team as far as saving baseball. I just reported, okay, instead of 14 teams, Major League Baseball said we'll go to 12. They're not going to double the luxury tax penalties. And that was it, just kind of, reporting the news. But I think people, how it happens with social media, get carried away like I was the one, negotiating with the two sides myself.
Oh, the social media definitely got carried away. And I said this that night, I haven't seen social media, especially baseball Twitter, all together as they were that night. And it was your tweets that were coming out that was just sending everybody in an absolute storm and a frenzy. And then you know what you did to follow that up? You brought bagels the next day. And everybody even more so was like, oh my God, this is incredible. So the picture of you just holding bagels for everybody was awesome. Would you just want to do something nice for people to go pick up a bunch of bagels and bring them?
They're actually delivered, and the photographer there from SNY says, hey, can you hold the bagels for everybody? I said, sure. I just did that. And that was it. They were already delivered. And, but yeah, I mean, the one encouraging part was I was surprised how many fans were that, into it. Because obviously baseball is right down the pecking order of sports. Even today, when we're at the union workouts, we're kind of laughing like, baseball better not end the lockout today, because it'll be on page 45 of the newspapers, because everything's going to be about Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson. So let's hold it off one more day.
That's a good point. And hey, this is kind of aside from the lockout, but still important news happening in the baseball world. Bob, I thought for certain Freddie Freeman was going to be an Atlanta Brave for life. That was my thought. And it still could be the case, but with every day of this lockout continuing, it comes out more and more that other teams are interested and that other teams are willing to pay him more money. We've heard about the Rays as of recently. We've heard about the Dodgers. We've heard about the Yankees. And, I'm not saying predict something, but how much substance is there to these offers he's getting? And I'm assuming it's not a foregone conclusion anymore that Freddie Freeman will be an Atlanta Brave.
No, it's not. But remember now, no one's allowed to talk negotiations since the lockout, December 1st. So it's not like any teams are coming to the back door and doing that kind of thing. So I think with the time period, it's like people getting a little carried away, like, oh, Atlanta doesn't want to bring him back. What's going on? It's just, that's it. We saw a few superstars signed before December 1st, but not Freddie. I think the Dodgers are the X factor. They can move Max Muncy over to second base. And of course, you got the DH, that sort of thing. Otherwise, I can't see another team jumping in. I can't see the Yankees, paying that kind of money when you still got, Aaron Judge to, worry about in a year. I think he'd be very sad if he's not back in Atlanta. He means so much to the organization. The organization loves him. He won 6 years. Give him a 6-year. If especially now with the universal DH, age hopefully shouldn't matter as much. But I think that would be sad, because he does not want to leave there, and he is so beloved in that organization. I mean, they should retire his number there one day.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of what I was going to ask you next. Is one, I don't want to live in a world where Freddie Freeman's not an Atlanta Brave. He just feels like an Atlanta Brave. But one thing I said all along is that it just makes sense for both sides to wait until after the universal DH is 100% official. Then you don't mind tacking on that extra year, 2 years to Freddie Freeman at the end of his career, because hey, he can go DH. So that's not a crazy thought on my end. That could be, a factor that played into them. Let's just wait until it's official that there's going to be a DH for us.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And they've already offered him 5 years, about 135, a little bit more than Paul Goldschmidt got with the St. Louis Cardinals. But Paul wasn't a free agent then, and he was new to the organization. So, I mean, Freddie's, could be worth $5 or $10 million a year just on PR alone, being the spokesman of that franchise, just, the all-American guy, even though he's Canadian. But, it's perfect fit. I really hope, I think if he comes back, I really think Atlanta has as good a chance as anybody to repeat. We haven't seen a repeat champion in the National League since the Big Red Machine in 75, 76 in Cincinnati.
Yeah, and you see it all the time. And look at the Astros. Once you get there, then you have that experience, and you can't speak enough about experience when it comes to the playoffs. And the Braves did it. They got over that Dodgers hump. They won the World Series, and now they're going to come in with a different looking team, but having that experience there to back it up. And Bob, before I let you go, one thing I want to ask you, I'm going to put you on the spot here. Free agency is going to go nuts right when this CBA is officially happened and signed. Who do you think is going to be the first person, the first superstar to sign when all is ready to go and teams are able to sign people?
I'll go with maybe a Kyle Schwarber, maybe a Nick Castellanos.
Okay.
I think Correa will take a while, and some of the other guys. I'll go with one of the big sluggers, corner outfielders that can help you in a lot of ways. But yeah, it will be a frenzy. You got 200 free agents out there. A lot of guys are gonna have to sign minor league deals. It'd be very interesting, because if you get a decent offer, it's not like you can sit around and shop it, because you got to get to camp. So I think there's going to be some guys falling by the wayside and fall right into some teams' laps and get a great deal for at least a year.
I agree. And in terms of Correa, I've been kind of all over the map. Originally I was thinking, okay, maybe New York. And then I was thinking, you know what? I think the Cubs make sense. And then as this kept going on and on, it's like, is he just going to take less years with the Astros? What's your prediction? And I know this is a long shot. Nobody really knows. But what are you feeling about Carlos Correa as a good potential landing spot and where you think he might end up.
I'll go back to Dodgers being an X factor. I mean, they got Trey
Okay.
Turner, but they only have Trey Turner for one more year. He's a East Coast guy. Who knows if he wants to stay there as a free agent? They could always slide him back to second. Not that Turner wants to do that, and sign Correa. Maybe Correa signs a shorter-term contract with a ton of opt-out clauses like every single year.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's what Houston's hoping that. But yeah, I cannot see him in New York. They've said all along they want to go with one of the young kids in a couple of years, not to block his progress. The thing with the Cubs, they just kind of tore everything down and trade those guys away.
Right.
So if they're going to sign a Correa, they would have kept, Javi Baez and Bryant and Rizzo in the first place.
Right.
It would look really awkward if they brought him in after dumping everybody else.
That's a great point. Hey, Bob, thank you so much for joining me and coming on and talking a little lockout. One thing I need you to do, bring that deal home for us, Bob. We need it to happen.
All right. Yeah, get your fingers crossed for tomorrow afternoon. But yeah, there is a lot of momentum going on. We saw that a week ago. So maybe this time, second time's a charm.
Well, I appreciate it. Thanks for joining me, and come back anytime.
All right. Thanks, man. My pleasure. Thank you.
See ya. Thanks for watching. If you love flipping bats, swinging 3-0, or just talking ball, join us. Call us at 213-537-9339 with your questions. We have a weekly guest, and we have a lot of fun, so hit that subscribe button.